Well, that wasn't too bad. So welcome everyone back to the ocean. It's midweek and we've finally got a bit of settled weather. So today's plan is to head out probably to about the 80 meter mark, see what we might target.
Getting out to 80 meters depth would take over an hour of paddling. Thankfully, the conditions were beautiful and we were just going to head out there slowly.
Okay, well, we're just passing the island now. And we've got a lot of bird activity out here. You can just see some fish on the surface breaking here. More over there, we've got birds flying all over the place. I'm interested to see what this turns into because it looks very fishy out here. So once we pass by about 30 meters, we'll chuck the lure out as we normally do, as it's done us pretty good over the last few months. There's always a chance of a sneaky tuna somewhere out here. Whatever species that may be, I don't know. Yeah, let's continue our push out. Got a couple of really big baits in the back that I'm keen to drop over around the 80 meter contour. Man, there's another work up down there. Work up here. Just pretty alive. Lots of stuff happening today. I don't know if these fish are actually going to bite the lure because they're probably pretty keyed into little things. We've hit one now. Bit of fresh bait. There's one behind him. It's a nice fat one. Put them there for the moment. Right, that's our fresh bait sorted.
After grabbing the fresh bait, we headed the last little bit out to the 80 meter mark.
Okay, so we're out here now. We've just made the trek all the way out here. What we've got here is just a 100-pound rig with some 7 barrows. We'll get one of these down. First up, nice big long strip. Here's our 2 nice baits. We'll chuck that down.
While we're waiting for that sneaky harpooker to come along and grab our baits, we are going to take the opportunity to talk about my Sunakku setup, as a few of you have asked about how I fish them. I'm going to go over all the little details, so stay tuned.
Righto guys, just while I'm out here waiting for a bite on this rod, I'm going to show you my Sunakku setup. So typically what I use is just a little light jigging rod. This one here, it's rated to sort of 15 to 30 pound line, 6'6", and a really bendy tip. You can see how flexible that is. So my main line I run on this is 20-pound Inferno braid, and that allows me to get lots of line into the reel, as I often fish depths over 50 to 60 meters. Right now I'm actually in 80 meters, so you're going to need all that line if you hook something big. My leader is tied on with an FG. I actually run quite a long leader as I use it for multiple things. I'll be using it for trolling and then I will swap over to a Sunakku. The most common weight I use, even in the deeper water, is 40-pound fluorocarbon. That is just the right weight to keep a nice feel to the lure without sacrificing too much on the abrasion resistance. Now the areas I fish don't commonly have foul in this deeper water. It's mostly just sandy, muddy bottom. So I can allow myself to really let the fish take line if it needs to. So we'll just grab the leader off the rod here and I'll show you how I set mine up. So there are multiple ways you can rig up these Sunakkus. There's the curly tail skirt I have here, and there's also the straight skirt. For my style of fishing, I really like the curly tail skirt. So this wiggles really enticingly without needing to do much work on the rod, as I often fish them in the holder and they catch just as much as I would fish them by hand. I grab usually a black Lumo and an orange Lumo as well. These ones light up very, very nicely down there. So I'll go for the 200-gram head to keep it as straight up and down as possible. So I always go for the 200-gram head when I'm out in this depth if the current's really going, and it seems to be today. We're kind of moving along at a decent rate, so you want the 200-gram to keep the jig straight up and down. so you can feel all those bites coming. So I'll just show you how to rig it. It's pretty simple really. It's just threading on a few things. Head goes on first, and then we'll take our Lumo bead. That goes on next. Right, so next thing is first curly tail goes on. Now you can fish it with one, but I really like to fish with two. Just extra movement and a little bit extra splash of colour. So that's the two sitting on there now. And the final part, which is the most important part, is getting these hooks on there. Now I'll just tie a pretty simple uni knot on here. And as long as you tie it nice and neatly without too much abrasion, you can land some very good fish on these hooks. I'll probably chuck a couple of clips in here of some of the really good fish I've caught on these hooks. They will stand up to it. Hell yeah, he is. There we go, got him. Oh, mate. Oh my god. That is a big snapper. Yes. Yes, boys! Okay, so that's that now. And we will just trim that tag. So there's the rig. My big 200 gram head for this deep water. Two little hooks on the bottom, and that has caught me everything from gurnard, kingfish, snapper, tarakihi, everything.
Next up, we're going to look at how I fish the Sunakku on the bottom.
So when I'm fishing the Sunakku, I'm basically getting it down onto the bottom like this here. Right, it's on the bottom. Now I'll just let the swell lift it up like this. You'll see as the swell comes along, it'll lift it up. This will just make the skirt dance like that. And if I do have a fish around, normally I'll try and just lead it away from them. So I'll start a slow wind, just fast enough that the fish wants to chase after it. And you'll feel the fish grabbing at the lure as it's going up. You can wind it up sometimes 10 meters and they'll keep following it. And until you really get the rod bending down, you want to just keep winding. And if the fish doesn't get it by the time you're probably 5 to 10 meters off the bottom, you just drop it back down. And then come up tight again. And sometimes the fish will follow it back down. So Sunakku jigs really don't need a huge amount of action to be successful. I fish them out of the holder very often. Just the wave action sorts them out usually. And sometimes that rod holder will outfish me. I didn't know you were there, bro. We've got a mollymawk in the background sort of hanging out with us as we do this. So species we'll move on to. I have caught just about everything you can hope to catch on Sunakkus. Kingfish is the first one. I've caught a lot of snapper, some very good sized fish. Gurnard is probably my #1 catch fishing with Sunakkus. Blue cod are a very big target of mine on the smaller sizes, 60 to 80 gram Sunakkus. And also, you go right down to the 60 grams, you can get tarakihi on the smaller 1 sized hooks. And sea perch as well. Sea perch will hit every single one of those. They'll hit a 200, they'll hit the bigger hooks, anything. So on top of that, I've caught a couple of very, very big blue moki. It does help to be in the right location. Where I got those were the Kapiti coast near Wellington. Just the right time of year to have a big run of these huge moki. And yeah, that's pretty much all the species I commonly get on them. You do get other fish on them as well from time to time. So I hope you learned a couple of things about how I fish my Sunakku jigs, both in the deep and in the shallow water. And if you had any questions, just pop them below and I'll do my best to answer them.
So now that you know all the details of how I fish them, let's jump in to a live recording of how I work the lure. And I think there's a fish after it.
There we go. Right, I think that's the right sort. So it's a little bit colder out here now. Fish species are starting to change a bit. But I had just been wiggling this on the bottom had a bite, didn't hook it, and then put it back down and the fish came back. We will just slowly bring him up. Oh, that's so much better to look at. So much better. We've got our first fish. Well, first keeper fish. Lovely, lovely gurnard on that combination of black and orange. And I will just give you a quick look at where he's pinned. He's actually on the bottom of the mouth. Definitely wasn't coming off, but bottom of the mouth, hook up. Sweet. Oh, hello. I've hooked something. Time to wind in whatever this is from 80 meters. It's taken a pretty big bait. It's probably a doggy, I would say. It feels like one. Actually got a fair bit of weight there. Just letting himself come up, so I imagine it's a doggy. Doggy.
With the harpooker fishing not really going to plan out in the deep water, I decided to head back in closer since we'd filmed our clip. The water looked to be a wonderful blue colour in here, so I decided to drop down the jig to see what would turn up.
Oh, that's a big animal.
After a final bit of fishing, I spotted something massive in the distance. This could only be one thing.
Oh my god.
Yup, looking at that, we had 2 whales ahead.
That's the closest I've ever been to a whale. Where are they going to pop up next? I wonder. Hopefully not right on top of me. Oh. These are big animals. Look at the water they're pushing. Whoa!
I let the pair of whales continue their journey south and turned back towards shore. These 2 whales were most likely humpbacks based on their dorsal fin. What an experience this was. And it seemed like the mammals were out to play today, as a big pot of dolphins swung past as I was heading back towards the island. With the cherry very much being put on top of the cake with the dolphins too, we got back into the surf break and headed for home. with that fairly casual landing, we end the video.